We used to have a flower bed in here and a different type of watering system, so what I'm looking to do is retrofit a sprinkler that looks more like that Rainbird one there, from what used to be sort of a soaker hose. So what I did was I sort of found a sprinkler head that I knew was probably the line that I needed, and as it happens it is. So you can sort of see this is the main trunk line and this is the extension that the sprinkler head comes off of. So sort of watching the trajectory here, sort of estimated, oh there we go, there's a little bee. There's a bee hive in around here someplace, so hopefully it doesn't sting me, but we'll see. So right here, I sort of estimated the run of the line, nailed this one correctly, and then the head I'm going to install is going to be right here in the center, and it's actually a center head, so it sort of shoots all the way across. And here, I sort of thought I had the trajectory correct. I ended up digging this portion out, couldn't find it, so kept going down, and then of course couldn't find it, so I thought, well, I'll go up one. So I want to use one of these T-junctions, so I'll cut the pipe and remove a small segment enough to fit this on, and then there's a couple barbs that go in either side. You need a clamp on either side as well. There's an off-take. Basically what you want to do is you want to take these off, so that's going to basically screw into there, and then your sprinkler head actually sits on there. And there's a number of reasons why you want to have this extension. One is, you know, if someone stands on the sprinkler head, which is on top here, then you're not going to break your lines. But the other thing is too, is sometimes, you know, the ground moves up and down, right? And so rather than having to dig your lines out both ways, having these small little extensions allow you to raise and lower the sprinkler head to the level of the grass. But if you have a look, you'll see there's a spray pattern here. So this guy can be anything from 0, which doesn't make sense, to 360 degrees, and it'll shoot between 8 and 15 feet. Now, all of this information that they've put sort of on the bottom of this one that you buy relates to the little head that's in the top here. Okay, so here you go. So now I've pulled that head out, and just straight, I just grabbed my fingers around it and just pulled it out. And this little tool is basically built to sort of clamp on to the head. There's a spring in here, and the spring doesn't actually push it up, even though these are called pop-up sprinklers. It actually forces it down. It's the water pressure that actually ends up pushing the head up and makes it spin. Now back to those instructions that were 0 to 360 and, you know, whatever the throw distance was, that's all related to this head that's on here. Now, for this patch of grass, you can sort of see it's very narrow. If I were to do 360 degrees, I'd soak my lawn and the wall and probably onto my neighbor's. And I wouldn't necessarily, well, actually probably I'd soak the house if I had to throw it as far as I needed. So there are heads you can buy. And this is an example, and I've already torn the package, so I apologize about that. But you'll notice it's called a center strip, and the pattern you can see right there in the top right hand corner. So that's going to give me sort of almost a bow tie type pattern. So if I take a look at this guy and I just pop him out here, see if I can get him out without losing any parts. That's it. And so if you kind of notice, he looks very similar to that guy that comes on there. Obviously the main difference is you can sort of see the spray nozzle there, and it's not cut all the way through. Unlike this guy where he's got some, this guy's a pretty fancy one, he's got some extra dials so you can set it, but this one's got a different throw. So these guys, they basically just screw right off. You notice there's a filter in there. You want to hang on to that if you can. There's a different filter that came in this one. You could probably use the same one, I don't think it matters. For whatever reason this guy is different color. So we can stick him in there, and again, this is the guy that has the different spray pattern on him. And so we'll just, sorry, focus the camera, don't cross thread it. Okay, so he's on. So now, important to note which ends, because this one is directional, you'll notice that sort of the spray end is on this side. So when I screw him onto the riser, I'm going to want to make sure that he's facing the right way so that the spray pattern's going in the right direction. That's only important for these ones that are directional. Actually, no, I take that back. It's pretty important for most of them, because there's always a sort of a starting and an ending angle, so you want to pay attention to that. Not everybody Teflon tapes these. You can. It makes them sort of nice and watertight, but sometimes what you end up having to do is back off the threads just to turn the sprinkler pop-up mechanism properly and sort of align it. And so sometimes the tape on here just doesn't stay, and it's not necessarily worth it. You may get a little bit of leaks in these things, but they're in the ground. They're in the ground where you're trying to water, so it's not sort of the end of the world. Okay, so I'm going to go and cut that T-junction in, and we'll sort of see how that goes. Okay, so here we are at the hole, and this is that T-connector. You can sort of see roughly how it's going to go in there. And these, by the way, these are the cutters. These ones are pretty fancy. I don't think you need anything too fancy. The big thing is you want to make sure you cut straight. You don't want like a big angle, because obviously your barbs aren't going to sit in very well. And then this is a reamer. Again, not necessary, but the idea behind getting this reamer through there is to widen the ends of the pipe so that the barbs slip in. And don't forget, before you put this in, this is almost a note for myself, we need a pipe clamp on either side. So I better dig those out now before I forget. Okay, so here we go. I actually, my own fault, I cut a little bit too much out of that main trunk line that I wanted, but I got all 3 barbs in, and those clamps are pretty tight, so pretty confident about it. Then I've just used this extension down here. So again, I'll use this to sort of raise or lower the head. And in this case, I'm actually going to be pretty conservative. I'm going to probably keep it even under the grass line a little bit. And the reason for that is it is actually right in the middle of an area that I do mow. And so by keeping it under the grass line a little bit, I'm hoping to avoid hitting it with the lawnmower. I put this rock here just because this extension was actually a little bit shorter than I was expecting. So the rock is just pushing the line out to give me another inch or so down this way, so I can throw sort of down the side easier. And I don't know if you can tell, but this has got a bit of a slope to it. So I'll probably match that with this head. Okay, so filled in the yard, and again, I don't know if you can tell, but that head is sunk a little bit. Got all the sprinklers on, and he's shooting, I'm not sure you can really see, but he's shooting way past the tree on that side, and he's getting the stairs a little bit, all the way up to that little patio brick I've got under the faucet, so he could probably reduce in flow. So there is a screw on the top here. I'm going to see if I can get it. I can't remember which way is tighter is. Oh, is that turning the whole head? No, it's turning the whole head. So there is a way. Oh, I bet you it's because it's under pressure, I bet. That's probably why. So by turning that screw, in theory what you're doing is reducing the flow and shortening. So I'm going to have to shut these off to do that, but effectively you can see it's hitting the areas that I want, and well, in some areas that I'm not, but where I don't want, but generally I think we're good. You can sort of see the grass is a little patchy looking, but that should fill in. One thing I didn't mention is when you're doing this, you definitely want to step on here and force that grass down. So, okay, we're done. Perfect.